Leah Bolton.
And I'm Atwal.
You're watching Fraser Focus.
It's all about local faces
and local places.
Let's take a look ahead at today's show.
He's been training pro athletes for decades and is not afraid to hit the weights in his 70s. Coach Mike Talic. It's a page-turner. Bob Mackey is a local author who wrote the book Soldier of the Horse.
A much-anticipated faith-based conference heads into Langley, supporting children's outreach programs.
This is home. This is home for me. We're at CA Church.
It's all happening right here on Fraser Focus.
On with the show. I'm Leah Bolton.
And I'm Atwal.
Fraser Focus, a fresh perspective beyond the bridge.
The Christian organization Music for Life provides thousands of African children with a means to education and leadership skills. They're looking for your support at an upcoming event here in the Fraser Valley.
In 1984, our founder, Ray Barnett, was doing missions work in Uganda, and he saw a young boy on the side of the road who needed a ride. So he picked up this boy, and this boy just began singing, and Ray saw the beauty and the potential of this child, and he wanted to bring that into the perspective that North Americans have of the African child, and that's how he founded the choir. So here, different choirs are meeting different significant people like Will Smith and the Queen of England, and we've had some incredible opportunities to have the choir interact with different people around the world.
And how does this event that's coming up help? It's a conference.
Yes, so the Music for Life conference is a fundraiser for the various educational programs that Music for Life does have, which includes sponsorship as well as various outreach programs and outreach centers.
And we've got a couple of local lads that'll be performing there.
Yes, so we have Andrew Marcus is one of our special guests. He's a local musician and worship pastor. And we also have Johnny Markin, who is a local pastor and professor at Trinity as well. In the middle of the raging sea, when I'm in the battle, Lord, you are with me, your light is shining.
So this is home. This is home for me. We're at CA Church.
I have the privilege to travel, and one of the biggest things I love when I travel is just doing team nights and training and equipping and hanging out with other worship leaders and songwriters. And so everything that I do on the road really is a reflection of what I love to do here at my home church at CA.
This is for sure the most quiet instrument. We don't get any complaints about the drums ever. Said no worship leader.
I'm excited about this conference because most of the time when we hear the word worship, we just automatically connect it to music. You know, let's stand and let's worship, or let's have some worship before the message. Worship is always tied to music, and so I'm excited about this conference because worship is obviously far greater than the music. It's a lifestyle. Take your everyday life, you're eating, sleeping, walking around life. Offer it to God as a sacrifice. This is your spiritual worship. And so I'm excited for a conference where we're actually talking about worship in its proper context, that it really is sacrifice, it's obedience, and it's just everyday life.
Everything I am and everything I have is yours.
So this is a conference that is for everybody. It's about, our theme this year is Worship Beyond the Music. So this is a conference intended to reignite the lifestyle of worship in Christ followers in the Lower Mainland.
Oh God, you're good to me.
The Music for Life conference takes place on November the 3rd. To show your support, please visit the website. I'm Atwal, and you're watching Fraser Focus.
I actually do love music just for music's sake, too.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a person of faith, but I don't believe that every song you sing has to be about your faith. It's about your humanity.
You're watching
watching Fraser Focus, Local Faces and Local Places. We are here in the Fraser region with award-winning singer-songwriter Brian Dirksen. Welcome to our Turn It Up segment.
I may be feeling crushed and confused, but I'm trusting you're here with me.
Christian, inspirational folk rock music in the style that I do.
And confused.
I actually do love music just for music's sake, too.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a person of faith, but I don't believe that every song you sing has to be about your faith. It's about your humanity. It's about your need for love or processing pain or disappointment in your life or telling a story.
What was it like to hear these words on that Sunday morning?
I'm doing a concert in my hometown, which is always so much fun because I do events in different parts of the world, but be able to come home and do an event with my band that tours with me is great. We're doing a concert to benefit Bethesda, who helps adults with special needs in our community. And this is very close to home for me because my wife and I, of our 6 children, 3 are special needs and require support. Isaiah, he's got Fragile X syndrome, and Benjamin, our older son, has the same condition, Fragile X.
In the middle of this pain, uninvited loss and grief, your peace. In the middle of this fear, this not knowing what comes next, your peace. Should go to 4-4 there.
Brian Dirksen. We're really excited to partner with him in doing a fundraising event for our family support services. Family support is kind of a baseline service that families need that have children with disabilities at home. They often feel isolated because government funds services for people with disabilities, but not necessarily for families. So we fill in the gap with donation-funded services to support families. And he's been a huge part of the fabric of Abbotsford most of his life. And so he's well known here as well, so it's going to be exciting to have him come back for a concert.
My king has got scars on his head.
I have known songs, obviously, that people know and love from me over years that we'll be doing, but I've got a new album out called Grateful.
Privilege of working on more of the coordination part of the concert, so trying to pull together all of the people and the tasks and make sure the day runs as smoothly as possible.
From that album, including my current single, which is called If Jesus is the Face of God.
All right, here we go with your new single, Brian.
If Jesus is the face of God, we have seen the face of love.
Brian will be performing a concert in Abbotsford on November the 3rd.
'Cause we know that God believes in us.
You're watching Fraser Focus. Stay with us.
Oh, Jesus is the face of God. We have heard forgiveness called.
Full extension. Can you do this? I was vice president of the Canadian Weightlifting Federation, technical for 17 years, and I was on the Olympic Games with Canadian.
Fraser Focus is brought to you by the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan, Canada's #1 plan for employee benefits.
Fraser Focus, Local Faces and Local Places. Right now we are here in North Vancouver with Zoomer Mike, Coach Talic.
Let's go, Leah. Put your hips over this. Oh my gosh. And touch this bone here. Yeah. I was vice president of the Canadian Weightlifting Federation, technical for 17 years, and I was on the Olympic Games with Canadian team like on 10 Olympic Games.
So how old are you now, Mike?
71.
Mike likes to coach people. He's been doing it for a long time. He's got a crew here today. He's going to show them the ropes.
Full extension. Can you do this?
Mike is a living legend. Mike is a guy that I met in 1999. A good friend of mine, Justin Ring, brought me out to the training group. And at that time, I was playing with the Montreal Alouettes, the CFL football team out east. And, you know, I met Mike, and that 1 year simply impacted and changed my life completely.
Next generation,
Pass
that's
the torch,
true.
man. Pass the torch. That's it.
Isn't it embarrassing when Mike can do more stuff than you sometimes?
Yeah, no, I couldn't do this. No.
Is he always this hard on you?
Oh, it's fun. Love this. Age is not a factor with Mike, for sure. He understands that the basic Olympic lifts are what's going to help you get explosive.
Nice. Arch back, please. Canucks team, 93, 94, 95. I was personal trainer of the Treble Linden for 8 years. Triceps press down, reverse grip for low triceps. I have to be busy. If I'm not busy, I'm dead. Putting my energy in myself, dealing with people and coaching people. Good. That's enough.
Right.
That's almost enough.
In the meantime, stay with us here on Fraser Focus. We're heading over to another story or insight in your community. I'm losing my breath.
April, what's concerning you when you look at your face?
The crow's feet concern me.
Over here.
And the lines on my forehead.
The forehead lines here.
As the Canadian population gets older, so do our efforts to maintain youthfulness. As such, non-surgical cosmetic procedures are on the rise.
MD Cosmetic, this is Rebecca.
I think that there was a stigma with aesthetic medicine about 20 years ago. People were embarrassed to say that they did go to a cosmetic physician like myself to have a cosmetic treatment. What we found over the past 20 years, that stigma no longer exists, both for men and for women. In fact, the #1 source of referrals we have today is from our existing patients. We're making people look better longer.
There we go. We're good. Well, I come out here because I trust the doctors here and the staff.
And that's important, especially when you're getting these, I mean, they're non-invasive, they're non-surgical, but these cosmetic procedures can make a big difference.
Yes, exactly. And if they didn't know what they were doing, they could scar you, or you could, walk out of here swollen or bruised.
Recent cosmetic studies indicate that a hydrofacial is performed somewhere in the world every 15 seconds. Essentially, that's over 2 million of those treatments globally. I'm Dean Atwal, and you're watching Fraser Focus.
The reason I got onto the story is because my dad was there. He was involved in what was then quite a famous cavalry charge.
You're watching Fraser Focus, local faces and local places. With over 500,000 people in the Surrey area alone, there are so many talented people. We're going to head into City Centre Library for Author's Corner. Joining us today, he was born and raised in Surrey. This is Bob Mackey, and he wrote the book, Soldier of the Horse. Tell me a bit about that.
Soldier of the Horse is set in the First World War, the Canadian Cavalry, which is a lot of people don't know much about. The reason I got onto the story is because my dad was there. He was involved in what was then quite a famous cavalry charge. Mounted Canadians with swords. On March 30th, 1918, so basically 100 years ago, the Canadian Cavalry Brigade was involved in a very fierce battle at a place that the French called Mourou, but which the troopers called Moret. And the culmination for my dad, and in many ways for the regiment, was when his squadron swept around the corner of the wood and charged a line of machine guns and rifles on horseback. I wrote it as a novel rather than a history because I wanted to hopefully turn it into more of a page turner, which I was fortunate enough to win a prize down in the States. This is my first book.
This is your first book?
Yeah, my second one is set in a Canadian submarine during the Cold War, during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
So this is Bob with Author's Corner. He wrote the one book. He also wrote Terror on the Alert. You're watching Fraser Focus. Stay with us.
Bringing you stories that are often overlooked by mainstream media.
You're watching Fraser Focus. Stay with us.
Teachable Moments are brought to you by Doyle & Associates Private Wealth Management with Investors Group Financial Services Incorporated. Do you think it's risky business for people to rely on the value of their home increasing to provide for their retirement?
Yes, it is, because you don't know the market. You don't know the future of it. So it can go way down, it can go way up if you're lucky, but no, it's no guarantee.
Would it surprise you to hear that many Canadians who downsize their home don't come away with as much equity as they thought they would?
That would surprise me. Being from the States, I'm not familiar with the Canadian real estate market, but that would surprise me because that's not the case in the States.
Yeah, I believe that. I do. I believe that. I think everybody is too, oh, I've got my house so I can sell it and make money and downsize, and yeah, I do believe that.
When you factor all of the expenses of home ownership, do you think the expenses are manageable, or do you think they are rising a lot faster than anticipated?
They are manageable, but I do see some certain increases in areas coming up faster than people would really like to see. I think the cost of water is going to continue to rise. I think the cost of building materials will continue to rise.
Are you relying on the sale of your principal residence to finance your retirement?
I do not. My husband has worked very hard and has planned for retirement since we basically were first married.
No, I don't. No, I don't rely on that.
For the past 2 decades, real estate prices have been soaring in Canada, which is great news for retirees who've cashed out of their homes and used the proceeds to fund their retirement. But with some warning of a house price correction, people may be wondering whether the sale of their principal residence should factor into their retirement plans. This is further complicated by things such as adult kids deciding to move back home and a decision for many seniors to age in place. Reverse mortgages, property tax deferrals, and accessing some of the equity in your home for retirement expenses can be options to consider. But these decisions should not be made lightly. Aging homes require more maintenance, and no one can predict future home values in 10 or 20 years. Consider your options carefully with a financial planner who can consider your financial goals and help you find the best path to live the retirement you want.
Teachable Moments are brought to you by Doyle & Associates Private Wealth Management with Investors Group Financial Services Incorporated.
October marks National Car Safety Month. Welcome back to Fraser Focus. Last year, British Columbia introduced new driving guidelines, making it mandatory on certain highways to have the appropriate tires.
Excuse me, maybe.
When we talk about just winter tires, a lot of people are coming in now. October the 1st, we know laws have changed. So people are looking for the M&S or they're looking for the snowflake? What do you got to look for, winter tires?
So to be legal, driving through the mountain passes, you can have either the M&S or the snowflake. However, to be safe, if you're driving in more severe winter conditions, you want that mountain snowflake designation. So the M&S gets you legally through there, but it doesn't necessarily get you safely through the mountains.
It's perfect, actually. This is hooked up to a nitrogen line.
Now, when it comes to tires, what you've actually got is 78% of actual nitrogen. 21% is oxygen, and you've got 1% left over for things like water vapor and CO2. Now, when it comes to water vapor, that's what makes Formula One drivers so excited. Water vapor is unpredictable, and when you're racing, you don't want anything that's unpredictable. However, does it matter to the everyday driver? Well, it certainly improves road grip for sure. Now, during this last winter, we saw some record-breaking snowfall around many areas of British Columbia. We had a chance to head up to Hemlock to get a grip on winter driving.
know, you get stuck once, you never want to do it again. It's like the typical scenario of a break-in, right? You get the alarm after you get broken into. So somebody gets stuck, they have a little accident, maybe a bit of a scare with a hydroplane, they're going, right, I want to be prepared, make sure that my family's safe and the people around me on the road.
Most newer vehicles come with ABS or anti-lock braking system. What you do is you apply firm pressure to the brake, and that acknowledges to the car that you want maximum braking power. Now, if ABS fails, or if you don't have it, what you do is you pump the brake continuously until you feel the wheels lock and then release suddenly. And here we are, the JoyTV vehicle, suitably stuck. Tips for those individuals stuck in snow: don't have snow chains.
First tip is not to panic. If you start to panic, you start spinning out your tires, or you get yourself more stuck.
One of the simplest things you can do is keep an emergency preparedness kit in your car. This will have things like a blanket, a flashlight, and jumper cables. Also, before you get going, make sure you have clear visibility.
The biggest thing that you want to make sure that you do, though, is clearing out in between, on the front and behind the tires.
Front and behind.
So you have room to rock.
Some people have talked about kitty litter. Does that work? Yes, yes it does. Do we have any? No, we don't.
The stat is that at this time of year, serious crashes where people get injured or killed almost double. So for example, in the month of December, this is 236 crashes compared to October, where there was 117 crashes.
Now in the winter, fuel consumption can go up by 30%. Yes, you want to warm the car up, but you want to avoid unnecessary idling. Now with most cars, you need about 30 seconds to warm it up and then drive away slowly. This will heat things up very quickly. Getting educated and being prepared is the best way to stay safe this winter season.
Enjoying the last bit of nice weather before it gets cold.
And that wraps up another edition of Fraser Focus. It's all about local places and local faces.
If you guys have a story to tell, don't forget to contact us. You can send us an email, give us a call, or there's always social media.
I'm Atwal.
And I'm Leah Bolton. Thanks for watching.